Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm finally getting around to doing some Barrows on mobile. So I thought I would do a few videos on comparing old school RuneScape mobile to the main game and comparing how easy it is to do certain activities, any differences, stuff you could improve on in the mobile client, because of course it's still under development, and any other thoughts on the matter. So I'm going to start right from withdrawing gear from the bank. Now the banking interface for the mobile client is not very good right now. It's a bit of a pain to withdraw items. However, singular items are not so bad. So actually withdrawing gear is not the worst. It's more annoying when you have to withdraw like multiple things, like 20 of a certain item or runes or stuff like that. And I've also noticed the main tab of the bank does not work nearly as well as your sub tabs. For whatever reason, it just lags and I can't actually click on the things I've tried so many times. Okay, so we're just going to be using a basic switch of 4 items. One thing I've noted right off the bat is switching is actually very fluid. For whatever reason, the inventory screen has a much more crisp way to click on it. For some reason the bank is just a piss off to go through. I don't know what is wrong with it, but something needs to be fixed about it. However, the inventory screen is much easier to actually click on things. It's much more responsive, and it generally works just kind of how it would on PC. I actually find it a little bit easier to switch gear on the mobile because you actually have 2 fingers. For one, you can have one over what you're actually doing and one quickly switching the items, and you don't have to actually move your mouse very far, or your hand I should say. So we're trying to put this in the most ergonomical area because you want to put your items that you're going to use more frequently in a spot that's easy to reach by your thumb, because about 70% of the screen is pretty easy to reach. However, some of it's a bit of a pain. You have to stretch your thumb really far, or you just have to take your hand off your phone a bit and click it. So I know I'm not using the optimal gear. I still need to buy some better gear for Barrows. For one, I should maybe get an Ancestral hat. I should maybe get some other Barrows pieces, but it's not a big deal. I don't actually take pretty much any damage in the run since I go in bank after every single run. So what we're going to do is do a full run from start to finish. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, and then we're going to go ahead and do maybe 10 or 15. Okay, so we have a timer loaded up on screen. So my average time on PC is around 4 minutes 30 seconds, obviously plus or minus. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes it takes longer. So we're going to be using Barrows teleport tabs like I normally do. Now I need to mention that I have not actually done this once, so this is the very first time I'm trying this, so keep that in mind. Okay, so we're a little unlucky, and Touareg is actually our first brother in the tunnel, so we're going to run down. The map is nice, however it's a little hard to actually click up onto the hills. It's probably not any harder than the regular default client, but I've kind of gotten used to Rune Light and being able to zoom out very, very far. Turning on your prayers is very nice. The panel is pretty wide compared to like the magic panel, and it seems to be pretty responsive. So we're going to turn them off quickly. And having the inventory and prayer on the opposite side is very useful because you can then dig with the spade and then quickly switch over to your prayers and jump in here. And I think this is probably about the same speed you could do on your PC. I am lagging a little bit, so it's not going to be ideal. But so far the movements seem pretty natural and not too hard, so we're going to jump up and then go over to Touareg. Okay, so we're on to Touareg. This is going to be a bit challenging if there are multiple people down here. I've gotten lucky so far and it's just been me. However, on PC you're able to like right click on the brothers and figure out which one's yours. However, here doing any activity that involves right clicking is much harder on mobile because they haven't come up with a very fluid way to do it. It's just a hold, and you have to hold it for like 2 seconds, or maybe probably more like a second, but it's still quite annoying. But we're still on pretty good pace so far, so we're gonna run up here to Varrock. Now one thing I'm anticipating being a little bit harder is the tunnel. Again, probably not too much harder than the default client. However, on Rune Light, you're getting pretty used to having an actual minimap. On the default client, you have nothing. And when you go into the side tunnels, you'll actually need to click on the ground. You can't actually click on the minimap anywhere, which I imagine is going to be a little bit annoying on mobile. But yeah, no, switching gear is actually quite nice. I'm probably going to try some Zora later on because I originally thought I wasn't going to do it because the gear switching I thought would be hard. However, it's actually probably the best part of mobile so far. It's responsive and you have 2 hands. That's the one advantage you have on the mobile client, is you pretty much have 2 mouse movement points at a single time. However, you can't actually move the camera and click on things at the same time. It only seems to take 1 input at a time. I'm not sure if that's a limitation or an anti-bodied measure or something, I don't know. But either way, you can't actually put in 2 commands at the same time, it doesn't seem like. Okay, so we're on pace at about 3 minutes, so we're going to hop down into the tunnel. I'm lagging a little bit here, and oh my god, that's right on my timer, so hopefully I can get that without clicking on it. Obviously the menu interfaces are going to be slower because there's no hotkeys to quickly go through them. And yeah, one annoying thing is since you can't right click very easily anyway, you just have to pretty much click on the doors. It's probably not worth your time to hold and check each one. You're just better off clicking on them, and if it's the right door, you'll be able to go through. So yeah, the tunnel is definitely more annoying, and my interface is a bit clogged. I do realize I have the timer, which wouldn't normally be there. However, I feel like if you could move the brothers checker thing with all the check marks somewhere else, that'd be very useful. Maybe move it to where my timer is. It's funny, normally I have a mouse to show you things, but here I just have to explain it because I'm not using a visible mouse with my phone. So I think that we're going to be a little bit slower, but of course we're going to need to do more than one run because there's a bit of RNG at any point you're doing Barrows. So yeah, basically we just have to run through here, and I just click on the door once, and no, I guess that's not it. So for my first impressions, I think the upper portion is going to be the same speed, and the lower one's going to be maybe 10 to 20% slower. So since this is Duroc, we're going to chuck on Protect from melee. However, normally I wouldn't do that, I would just tank it, but since he can one-hit you, I'm not going to take that risk. Okay, so we must be getting pretty close to the other side. We have the proper percentage, 88%, and hopefully, yep, that's the door we can go through. Perfect. On obviously RuneLite, you can zoom out really far, or any of the clients really, you can zoom out far, and then you can right click on all the doors while you're killing a skeleton and figure out which one it is. However, I don't think there's a zoom out far enough for the client, but that's not really the client's fault. Anyway, so we didn't get anything, but about 5 minutes and 15 seconds, so actually not too bad. A bit slower than my average, but that could just be due to RNG, although I think it is a little bit slower. So we're going to go ahead and do maybe 10, 15 runs in the background while I go over a few things I want to say about the differences. So I'm going to be going over a few suggestions I have for changes you can make to make this more fluid on mobile. Now before I get into this, I want to make clear that I don't think we should change the game drastically in any way to accommodate mobile players, but if there's something small that you could change on mobile, say like moving the Rim, Durakathan, Kirill, Touareg, Varak, text a little bit somewhere else, something like that that doesn't actually affect anyone. Mostly these will be UI changes or ways that you use the touch controls to interact with the game. I don't think we should be changing any of the content itself to accommodate the mobile players. So to start off, I think the above ground section is pretty similar to PC. There's a few annoying things like clicking on the mounds are a bit annoying on mobile, but beyond adding a bit more zoom, I don't think you could change the actual layout of the minigame at all. But overall pretty fluid. Going down into the mounds is pretty easy. Turning on your prayers, fighting the brothers is actually pretty similar. Like I mentioned, moving the some of the UIs around would be nice. They should be a little more customizable. Like even my total XP thing, I really don't want any more in the main area than is necessary. Also, the touch control options at the bottom left should be somewhere else, but that's for another video. So yeah, the above ground section's not too bad. However, in the tunnels, it gets a little bit more dicey. For one, clicking on the doors, no one's going to want to right click them really unless you are fighting something at the time and you have time to check the doors, but it's going to take you like 5 or 6 seconds to check every door by right clicking. Now you could put on your always right click command, however that gets pretty annoying once you want to actually just fight things because you're using your left click more often, so that's probably not a viable solution. Now one solution to this would be adding greater customization to the ways you can add the right click only command. So maybe this would probably require too much work, but if you could click on an object and say always use right click on this object or something like that, that would probably help out quite a lot, although I would have to remember a lot of things and possibly require a lot more engine work. Currently the way you interact with your right click command is not very good. I know some phones will have a hard touch. I think some of the iPhones you can touch harder, and that puts in a different command as touching lightly, I guess, but I don't think my iPhone has it and most phones don't. Now I haven't messed around with all the touch commands, so maybe I'll have a look if there's something that might help. Another annoying part is running through the side tunnels, because since there's no mini-map and you can't just click towards the end, you have to click like 10 times along the side tunnel to make sure you keep running, where on PC it's a little bit easier. And again, once you're in the dungeon, I find there is just a little bit too much UI cluttering everything up. Now when we compare my average times from these runs, I'd say they're probably somewhere around 5 minutes, and my average on PC is around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Running through this minigame is pretty easy on mobile, to be honest. So I went ahead and did 10 runs, and my longest time was 6 minutes plus, and my shortest time was around 4 minutes. A lot of that just has to do with RNG, however, I do feel it'll probably take about 10 to 15% longer doing it on mobile. And even at the end, we got a Kirill's top, which is pretty nice, so we ended up getting about 2.5 mil in total just from doing these 10 runs, which is a bit above average. although not related too much. So I'm thinking of doing this for some other videos. I'm going to try out Zulrah, maybe some other bosses, and just do some skilling videos. And in the end, I want to give it an overall rating out of 10, 10 being identical to PC in every single way, or at least in the speed factor and how long it takes to do it, 0 being atrocious. A few things might actually be easier on mobile, however it's probably few and far between, so I don't think I need to leave any room for that. So for Barrows, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's definitely worth doing on mobile. You always have to keep in mind that when you're doing a method where you have the chance of dying and you are doing it on, say, a data, you want to make sure you have a way to connect, because if you go to data range like I do sometimes and you die, you could be out of connection for over an hour and a half and you could lose your items. So yeah, 8 out of 10, strong, docking it for a few issues with the UI and running through the doors, but definitely doable. One of the easier bosses and the lowest risk ones to do on mobile. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more videos like this, definitely leave a comment saying so, and like on the video if you so choose. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.